Going on to what you talked about a little bit, but just to clarify what you specifically wrote in the book here, you talk about meeting a dog. Before we get into the specifics of that process, I want to take a moment to turn this discussion around again and focus on you and not the dog. If a dog is looking for someone to take charge and exert authority over him in order to not burden him with that responsibility, then you need to carry yourself a certain way. I go back to something I said in the introduction about wanting to be respected over being liked. Think about the kinds of introductions and greetings you've had with people and a variety of ways in which they've interacted with you. How would you respond if you met someone for the first time and they rushed up to you, hugged you, tousled your hair, jumped up and down, and generally acted like you were the greatest person on the face of the earth? Wouldn't you think that, or would you think that person's assessment of you was valid? Would you like that kind of physical contact? Would you think that this was a great starting point for a long-term relationship? Would you have respect for that person? And then you get to this point where you say, what kind of dog is going to be attracted to that kind of greeting and that message? And the answer is a needy dog. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's an incredible point.
Yeah.
Do you really want, let's say you're hiring an employee. And the employee, you can tell, just needs a lot of encouragement, even though they're all fired up. But the more you fire them up, the more fired up they get. Well, is that the person you really want to have that's going to take you there to emotionally prod them along to get them where you want to go? The answer is obviously no.
Yeah, one of the most common kind of scenario analogies that I throw at people because I do a lot of speaking and events and conferences and whatever, and one of the almost always offline people are like, oh, my dog, I need to send him to him. Like, that's not going to fix it. No different than you send me your kids. Like, they're going to work well for me. They're not going to work well for you because you're not doing it. But think of it from a perspective from a boardroom is that, when they say, my dog doesn't respect me, there's two things. There's a big difference between respecting and enjoying or liking. So the first example I use is being at a bar. And I'll save the heavy details, but the gist of it is that if the opposite sex is throwing themselves at you, do you like that? Well, yeah. Do you enjoy it? Absolutely. Do you respect that person? No. So you can spoil your dog. You can let him sleep. I let him sleep in my bed. I take him for walks. I give him treats. I take him to acupuncture. And he doesn't listen to me. Like, I bet your kids don't either. And that's why, because it's the 19-year-old at the bar that's trying to flatter you. It doesn't. It's enjoyable, but it doesn't garner respect. The second thing, on a more serious note, is think of a boardroom, and I use this because I talk with a lot of business folks and things at different events. And let's say that you're tasked with going in front of the 12 executives of the company you work for. And your boss says, hey, you're going to give a PowerPoint presentation, and your job depends on this. If you knock it out of the park, you're getting a promotion, you're going to be an executive. If it doesn't go that well, you're going to pack your stuff and find employment elsewhere. Now, I want you to think about how you go into that boardroom, right? And I want you to think about, visualize in your mind, interacting with those 12 executives the way that you interact with your dog. How would that presentation go? Every one of them, I'd get laughed out of the room. That's why your dog doesn't listen to you. Because your dog, you can tell your dog that you're his owner all you want. You have to show him that. If he doesn't believe you because you haven't shown him that, guess what? You're not. You can think about it. You can wish that you were. You can hope that you were. The fact is that your dog is going to believe who you show him that you are. And if that's a clown, guess what? He thinks you're a clown. If you're an emotionally unstable, JA, that's how he's going to view you. If you're a beta male because you're rolling around and letting him, do whatever he wants to you, that he's going to view you as such. And the most dangerous combination, because a lot of times you hear the word dominance get thrown around, alpha, all this other stuff. I can tell you, I can count on one hand the amount of dogs that I've come across that were truly what I would consider an alpha dog. And this is a dog that, even with all my experience, all of the manipulations I can provide in terms of setting the environment up to make it so that I'll impact him that way, he still wants to fight me over everything, no matter what I do. And I can't get in his head, no matter how hard I try, no matter what I do physically, mentally, environmental manipulation, you name it. Less than 5.
This is out of thousands of dogs? Thousands of dogs, less than 5 that actually need to be the alpha male over you with everything that you know how to do to get in their heads.
Yeah, that no matter what you do with them, that they still look at everybody like you're below me. A handful of them, less than a handful of them. And so when I hear, especially pet owners, like, oh, he's really alpha, he's really protective. No, he's not. What it is,
you're just weak.
There's a power vacuum. Yeah, and so dogs, again, they don't rationalize. They don't have the logic and reasoning we have. They come hardwired with a set of genetically inherited traits that say if there is nothing in charge, if there's a vacuum, whether I want to do it or not, I'm going to, because somebody has to. Mm-hmm. And so when you see all of these dogs that are dangerous and guarding of food and territorial and all this other stuff, you have a dog that doesn't want to be in charge, but is taking that role because nobody else will, and that is a absolute recipe for disaster. And that's why you see so many problems with dogs and their owners is because of that simple fact in and of itself.
Yeah.